loved George Bush almost since the day I laid eyes on him. And George and I know from personal experience what it's like to have a sick child, and we are happy and grateful to know that for generations to come, you will be giving that same kind of loving care to the children of Maine and this entire region.
You always come back here. What makes it so special?
George's roots are from here.
And this place is right ocean on three sides, and it's very, very peaceful. And so we like coming here for, oh, how many years?
Forever.
A magnificent woman who is well respected for her dedication to children and well loved for her spunk and warm personality. Hello everybody, I'm Lee Goldberg. Yesterday, former First Lady and summertime Maine resident Barbara Bush passed away after decades of service to her country and her family. Today, memorials are built in her honor. Kennebunkport residents say goodbye to their favorite neighbor. Chris Costa spoke to her close friends in town, while Christina Rex shared memories with Mainers who worked for the Bushes. And Christina, she really treated everybody just like family.
She absolutely did, Lee. The two people I spoke with today had two incredibly different experiences. One of them regularly boated on the open waters with Mrs. Bush. The other, for a short time, was her personal driver. Two very different stories, but both say she made them feel like family.
You know, people would always say, what do you talk about? You talk about politics? I said, no. We talk about things that friends talk about. We talk about Kennebunkport. We talk about people that are visiting them. We talk about their family and the kids and the grandkids.
They weren't the president and first lady out on their boat in Kennebunkport. They were just good friends. Stephen Spellenauer and his wife first met President and Mrs. Bush right after they left the White House. He saved his last email from her, dated February 20th.
I just talked to some of the Secret Service people who served them over the years. They always put the Secret Service's needs sometimes above their own. I mean,
Scarborough resident Paul Beeler can attest to that. He worked in the Secret Service and at one point was Mrs. Bush's personal driver.
Treated you just as if you were one of her children.
He says the First Lady took care of everyone, even holding an annual summer barbecue for Secret Service members and their families.
Just the nature of her treating people on an equal basis.
No matter who you were welcome.
she made people feel very much at ease when you talk to her.
Mrs. Bush's close friends worry about 41 now because the love they saw when she was alive, they can't imagine him without.
They were inseparable. She took care of him and he took care of her.
You know, I was always amazed that there would be places where no one would see them and they'd still be holding hands.
Former President George H.W. Bush released a statement this afternoon telling people that he's grateful for all the love and support and to cross the Bushes off your worry list. Stephen, who you heard from, and his wife are headed down to Houston for Mrs. Bush's private funeral. Lee?
Thanks, Christina. Because of all the people who call Mrs. Bush a friend from Maine to Houston, her family has decided to invite the public to a ceremony on Friday. Mrs. Bush will lie in repose at St. Martin's Church from noon to midnight. All are welcome. Janelle Forte has more about the former First Lady's funeral arrangements.
Soon, close family and friends of former First Lady Barbara Bush will show up here to the funeral home to pay their last respects. Today and tomorrow is set aside for a private viewing. Mrs. Bush's body was brought here to the funeral home last night, shortly after barricades went up around this property, adding an extra layer of security, and the flags here were lowered to half staff. Now, since then, the Secret Service and HPD has been here making sure that the Bush family has some privacy during this very emotional time. Now, Ms. Bush's body will stay here until it's taken to St. Martin's Church for that repose on Friday, and then the funeral is this Saturday, and it's by invitation only. So they're expecting about 1,500 guests, including past presidents, former First Ladies, and dignitaries. Now, at one point, the former First Lady said that she wanted a very simple funeral service, but that's going to be tough considering all the lives that she's touched. Reporting here in Houston, Janelle Forte, back to you.
And so many people have taken time to share their thoughts and memories of Barbara Bush, those who never met her and those who knew her well. Governor LePage and his wife Ann spent time with the Bush family. The governor spoke with us today about a time that his wife and Mrs. Bush were scheduled to read some books to children.
They were going to do a Skype to a school up in Bangor, or in the Bangor region one day. They were going to Skype, I think, 2nd or 3rd graders, I think it was. Somehow they got talking about it and they decided to get in the car and drive up. So they went in person. This is the kind of person she was. She was just so happy to do anything for children. And it's something, her cause was something that no one could be offended by.
The governor also remembered Mrs. Bush as being somebody who spoke her mind. He shared a story of one time when she came up to him and said, "I want you to win your re-election campaign, and you know I don't give political advice, but you need to zip it." That made the governor break out in laughter. The Bushes call Houston home during the winter months, but another place where Mrs. Bush's legacy is cherished is the University of New England. Barbara Bush and Abigail Adams are the only 2 first ladies to also be mothers of presidents. That alone gives her a pretty special status to historians. Bill Green joins us live from just outside the George and Barbara Bush Center on the campus of UNE. Hi, Billy.
Hi, Lee. People all around the state and the nation are reminiscing about time spent with Mrs. Bush here at the University of New England. They have a special relationship with Barbara Bush, who first started coming here by boat. And that relationship grew into the George and Barbara Bush Center, which is the intellectual center of the University of New England. Officed here are the president, provost, and library, as well as the Bush Legacy Collection, a room off the library which tells the story of Bush family visits to Walker's Point. Eye-catching mementos within include her pearls and her famous gardening hat. These accessories were worn by the woman with a common touch but formidable personality.
You wouldn't say that she was a flashy or attention-seeking First Lady, but she certainly didn't shy from the cameras. I think, again, guts and grace comes to my mind as she was always gracious. There was never a scandal connected to Barbara Bush during her time as First Lady. But at the same time, nobody would ever accuse her of being a shrinking violet or
Her family called her the Enforcer. Now, we will later this evening at 6 o'clock tell you about her place in history and how she is being remembered as that formidable character. Lee, I think guts and grace is a very good way to describe the former First Lady, Barbara Bush.
Absolutely, Bill. Thank you very much. Live on the campus of UNE. News Center now continues after the break.
Coming up tonight on 207, meet 2 young farmers finding new paths in one of Maine's oldest industries. Plus, the music of Mary Gauthier collaborating with veterans on 207 at 7.
Welcome back, everyone. Walker's Point, one of 2 main locations synonymous with the Bushes. The other is the Barbara Bush Children's Hospital. Lindsay Mills visited both places today. Joins us now live from Walker's Point. Hey, Linz.
Hey, Lee. Yes, I've been here at Walker's Point for the last couple of hours now, and just in my short time here, I've seen dozens of people drive by, walk by, just looking to feel a connection to the Bush family that spent so many summers here in Maine. The other place that Mrs. Bush spent a lot of her time was at the Barbara Bush Children's Hospital, where she would take time reading to patients, and today those patients, nurses, and doctors paid tribute to her. A moment away from the scans, treatments, and tests.
I'm sad that she passed away.
To honor a woman who helped the patients of the Children's Hospital in Portland. 13-year-old Gabe Beazus has cystic fibrosis and has stayed at the hospital more than a dozen times.
I wish I could meet her.
Gabe never met the former First Lady, who was known to visit the hospital often, but her optimistic energy was evident in the everyday work of the hospital that bears her name.
Say you're not having a good day, like people here will like cheer you up like super fast.
Her humor, her resiliency, her being the matriarch of the family, and through personal interaction, I just smiled because I got to see all of it firsthand.
Jerry Michelson is chairman of Maine Medical Center. He says Mrs. Bush's life's work and legacy will live on at the hospital. If you stop and look close enough at these tiles, you'll find the one she made, pearls and all. Wednesday, patients and doctors and nurses created a different display, a banner adorned with words of gratitude for a woman who inspired so many, and a guest book quickly filling with messages from those who are thankful for a safe and loving place to heal.
She deserves it.
And the hospital in Portland, the Barbara Bush Children's Hospital, was named for her 23 years ago. Lee?
Yeah, Lindsay, you mentioned you've been there for a couple of hours now. Just wondering, I mean, as people drive by or walk around, just kind of want to be in that general area. Is it a celebratory mood? Is it a somber mood? Kind of a combination of the two?
I would say yes, it is a combination of the two. It's also very serious. People are coming by, they want to take photos of the home. They're taking photos of the growing memorial right next to me where there's flowers and a UNE t-shirt and even a candle. But curiosity also seems to sum it up. Lee?
All right, Lindsay, thank you very much. Live down at Walker's Point. Appreciate that. Well, Mrs. Bush certainly made a lot of friends over her 92 years, and it seems like all of them are saying goodbye in their own way on social media. We'll have that story next. And the thermometer is slowly creeping towards the 60s, but I feel like there's going to be another shoe that drops. It just always seems that way. Keith, coming up with our forecast. Many of the former First Lady's close friends in Maine say there will be a celebration of life for her if and when the family does come back to Walker's Point this summer. Chris Costa is live in Kennebunkport. Chris, some of her closest friends are expecting a very big turnout.
Yeah, Lee, a few of them that I spoke with told me that if today's outpouring is any indication, then the ceremony this summer will be very well attended. We're at Ganny's Garden right now. It was dedicated to Mrs. Bush back in 2011. You can see already some flowers that have been laid here at the bench where some relics are, and then also some flowers that have been planted. A lot of the people say if a lot of people show up this summer, it'll be no surprise.
On Maine's rocky coast, the tributes are blooming. Love for a lady that many have met, or at least felt like they did.
The whole country is feeling a loss today.
What made former First Lady Barbara Bush so special to friends like Bonnie Clement and Helen Torgelson is how she remembered everyone she met.
So she always made you feel important, always made you feel like you were somebody. And that was one of her great gifts.
We have saved every card.
Often sending handwritten notes, giving a little piece of herself. Now her community, showing her what she taught them. Giving back.
It's memories that will never die out of my head. Learn from her.
Friends like Bob and Evelyn Payne, remembering their countless meetings with the Bush family through paintings and pets.
Made you feel like you were very special to them, not them special to you.
Some say you don't meet friends, you recognize them.
Something happens and you go, I really like that person.
Even those who never met the First Lady recognize the legacy she leaves.
You only lose the physical piece, but you have the memories. And if you cherish them, you will have those forever.
Now coming up on Saturday night here in downtown Kennebunkport over at Hurricane Restaurant, which is not far from here, there will be a tribute to Mrs. Barbara Bush. Everybody's been asked to wear pearls, and the group Women of Note will be singing for her as they did every summer for the last 15 years. Lee?
That'll be a party, Chris. All right, thank you. Live in Kennebunkport. We have seen people offer their condolences at Walker's Point and, of course, in Houston. But online, it is a digital memorial from local organizations for the enforcer. Katie Ortiz shares some of those special messages. Hey, Katie.
Hey, yeah, they're actually just coming in, pouring in, and it's really hard to keep up, actually. But just last night, police in Kennebunkport gave their thanks to Barbara Bush. Thank you for caring about our community. Thank you for patrolling Kennebunk Beach for so many years. This one was taken moments ago for you. And the Maine Department of Environmental Protection shared this adorable throwback of her in 41. Much like Maine's beautiful coastline, Barbara Bush was strong, inspiring, and timeless. May she rest in peace. And the Boston Red Sox showed just how great she looked in a Sox jersey. We're honored to have known former First Lady Barbara Bush. Our hearts go out to the entire Bush family. Now back home at Hadlock Field, the Sea Dogs show her arm. Now it was always a special honor to have her join us at Hadlock Field for Portland Sea Dogs baseball. Rest in peace, Mrs. Bush. You will we will miss you. And Police in Bath with one of her musings, quote, never lose sight of the fact that the most important yardstick of your success will be how you treat other people, your family, friends, and coworkers, and even strangers you meet along the way, end quote. But this one might be my favorite, Sesame Street. Barbara Bush and Big Bird shared more than the same initials. They shared a love of friends and family, of teaching children their ABCs, a commitment to helping others, and a generosity of spirit. And she was, of course, an incredible literacy advocate. And Big Bird and all of his pals on Sesame Street will miss her warmth, humor, and friendship. But I think that sentiment translates to everyone who is missing her tonight. Lee.
All right, Katie, thank you very much. All right, so I think I'm talking to this guy.
Ooh, this is like a weird
If people do want to head out to Walker's Point this weekend, the weather will cooperate with driving on the coast and checking out the area.
This weekend, yes. Now, the in between, not so much. So we'll talk about that. But I think you're going to like the payoff, because I know you're all about that. You'll look ahead to the nice weather no matter what I give you. So tomorrow, not so good, but it does look good for the weekend. It's amazing. Jess and I were talking about how 51 today in Portland felt very mild with the sunshine. I walked out and thought, man, we must have blown these temperature forecasts. But no, we were right around accurate, but just felt so warm with the sun and how cool we've been lately. We did say much cooler in the mountains, had some showers earlier over the mid-coast and parts of the interior. That has now died out, just a couple of showers across northern Maine. And most of tonight will be partly cloudy before a storm system moves in tomorrow. Visible satellite showing you some nice holes in the clouds as the sun sets around 7:30 or so this time of the year. So it's nice. A couple more hours left. Hour by hour forecast temperatures do drop tonight into the 30s in most spots. A little bit colder, of course, in the mountains. And then a storm approaches by late morning tomorrow, coming in from southwest to northeast. I'm going to switch computer models because I don't really like the way this model is handling this storm. So let's switch over. And here it is, starting as rain and some sleet pellets along the coastline. The pink there indicating some of those sleet pellets. I think what you're going to see along the coast is a lot like what we saw minus the wind with our last storm, which is it rains and it mixes at times with sleet pellets as the precipitation is heavier. Meanwhile, it starts as snow and stays largely snow into the mountains and across northern Maine overnight Thursday before departing on Friday again as some sleet pellets and some snow before we clear out Friday afternoon. This doesn't look like a big deal, of course, keeping in mind the fact that it will be April 19th into the 20th, but we're looking at about 1 or 2 inches in the mountains. Everywhere that's shaded blue, all that's telling you is you're likely to see some snowflakes. So that does go almost all the way to the coastline. I don't expect any accumulation, though, outside of the mountains. It'll just be a mental thing that it's still spitting snow this time of the year. But I do have some good news to go along with that. After a beautiful weekend, we launch into a couple of nice days. Monday, right around 60 in a lot of spots. Tuesday, mid-60s. However, classic spring, notice the coastline, sea breeze kicking in, but could be in the mid and upper 60s away from the coastline. And we do it again on Wednesday. So we put together our best stretch of weather since February, Lee. That's how sad this really is. But if you look at Saturday to Wednesday, that is a nice stretch. And it's the time of the year that reminds you it's really spring, which is that if you live along the coastline, you lose about 10 degrees compared to a lot of spots. But it's a process that leads eventually to warmer conditions, and even mid-50s with a sea breeze, much better than we've been as of late. So
mud season.
Take it.
Mud season at its finest.
Exactly. And like I said, it's not really spring until you get the sea breeze. Until Sanford's 70 and we're 45, spring hasn't arrived. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, cool.
Thanks, bud. Always good to see you. Today, officers from all over New England said goodbye to a brother in arms. Canine Sergeant Sean Gannon of the Yarmouth, Massachusetts Police Department was shot and killed while serving an arrest warrant. Close to 1,000 police officers attended the services. His dog, who was also shot during the incident, is recovering. However, he will not be returning to police work. A caravan of cruisers from Old Town to Westbrook made the journey to Massachusetts, and canine officers stood at attention as the police officers rode by.
There's evidence of metal fatigue where the blade separated.
Officials believe normal wear and tear may have caused an engine blade to break off mid-flight and fly through the window of a Southwest plane, almost sucking a businesswoman right out of the cabin. The mother of 2 was killed in the accident. Now, the National Transportation Safety Board must decide if other planes with the same engine could be at risk. More local news in the next half hour, including more coverage of former First Lady Barbara Bush's passing. Cindy Williams has a preview. Hey, Sid.
Hey there, Lee. Maine's highest court has decided that ranked choice voting is the law in this state. Now it's up to election officials to actually make it happen, to implement it. They are quickly running out of time to figure out how to do that. Can they get it done, and can they do it right? We're going to tackle those questions in the next half hour. Plus, grocery delivery is really popular in big cities, and soon that very convenient service is going to be available in more rural areas of Maine. Those stories and more ahead at 5:30. Back to you.
All right, Cindy, thank you very much. News Center now continues with some brain drops after the break. So we've been chatting with you on Facebook throughout the show on getting your thoughts on the passing of former First Lady Barbara Bush. Some we'd like to share with you now. Paul says, wow, they were together 77 years, married for 73. Wow, which is obviously extremely impressive numbers right there. Also, she was so sweet, and this is so sweet and so sad at the same time. That came in from Mary Beth, which is true. Anne says, what a gift she was to the children of the state of Maine. She will absolutely be missed. We thank you for all of your comments. There are so many to go through, and your thoughts and your memories of the former First Lady, and we appreciate you having that conversation with Facebook on us with us as well. So we switch gears and come over here where Christina is joining the party, and we're going to learn something from Keith as he drops some brains.
This is kind of interesting. I know you don't like self-driving cars, but what about self-charging cars? In Sweden, they're starting to install basically what amounts to a third rail, which is an electrified supply. It's underneath the ground, so you don't have to worry about getting shocked by it. And what it does is charges electric cars as you're driving. So you don't have to worry about battery life as much, and you don't have to worry about charging your car as much. What it will do is it will actually bill you based on how much energy you're taking from the grid and keep your car charged as you're going. This is all part of Sweden's initiative to reduce their carbon emission by 70% by 2030. So they're on track. And here's the kicker, because I know this is what climate deniers really key in on.
You always got to get them in on this.
Cheaper than fossil fuels. This whole system will be paid for in 3 years, and the net operating cost will be 70% less than fossil fuels.
That was going to be my question is, can you compare, obviously the eco-friendly options are there, but can you compare the price of having a car and paying for gas or having an electric car and paying to charge it?
Right now, electric car equations still are just a nice thing to do for the environment.
And if the power goes out, then you can't charge your car, so...
Well, right, but keep in mind that's all fossil fuel driven, right? So if the whole grid fails, you got problems to begin with. But it's a nice step, and I like the idea of not having to charge the car every 300 miles. That's not practical, you know?
Keith likes it.
Yep.
That means
it's
I don't.
not self-driving.
That means I don't.
So that's good.
News Center 5:30 starts right now.